Charleston wakes up underwater. Deadly Hurricane Matthew brings more misery after it batters South Carolina and Georgia through the night, kills 6 in Florida and leaves 1.4 million without power. Hurricane Matthew continued to thunder along the East Coast on Friday night and Saturday morning. It swept through the coast of Georgia at around 8 p.m. and reached Charleston, South Carolina, at 1 a.m. Most powerful hurricane to threaten the Atlantic seaboard in more than a decade is set to make landfall. 6 people died in Florida as a result of the aggressive storm, which also killed almost 900 in Haiti. Hurricane Matthew is expected to make landfall near Charleston Saturday morning after killing 6 people in Florida and leaving almost 1.4 million homes and businesses without power, even though its strongest wind stayed just offshore. Matthew lashed Florida, Georgia and South Carolina with heavy rain and wind, after killing almost 900 people in Haiti as it marched north through the Caribbean. Hurricane-force winds were moving onshore at Hilton Head and Pritchard's Island, South Carolina, the National Hurricane Center reported Saturday morning. More than 150,000 electric customers in South Carolina, most in Beaufort and the Charleston area, were without power Saturday morning. The hurricane, which has weakened to a Category 1 storm, will near North Carolina's southern coast by Saturday night, the center says. "Now is the time we ask for prayer," Governor Nikki Haley said as she finished an update on storm preparations and bowed her head. Matthew, the most powerful hurricane to threaten the Atlantic seaboard in more than a decade, set off alarms as it closed in on the U.S., having left at least almost 900 people dead in Haiti. In the end, it brushed the heavily populated areas of Florida and raked the Georgia coast, including some of the state's islands such as St. Simons and Tybee. In Florida, the storm gouged out several large sections of the coastal A1A highway north of Daytona Beach and had nearly completely washed out the northbound lane for about a mile at Flagler Beach. The deaths in Florida included an elderly St. Lucie County couple who died from carbon monoxide fumes while running a generator in their garage, and 2 women who were killed in separate events when trees fell on a home and a camper. About 500,000 people were under evacuation orders in the Jacksonville area, along with another 500,000 on the Georgia coast. More than 300,000 fled their homes in South Carolina. The latest forecast showed the storm could also scrape the North Carolina coast. "We have been very fortunate that Matthew's strongest winds have remained a short distance offshore of the Florida and Georgia coasts thus far, but this should not be a reason to let down our guard," the Hurricane Center said in a forecast discussion. St. Augustine, which is the nation's oldest permanently occupied European settlement and includes a 17th century Spanish fortress and many historic homes turned into bed and breakfasts, was awash in rain and gray seawater that the authorities said could top 8 feet. "It's a really serious, devastating situation," Mayor Nancy Shaver said of the city of 14,000. "The flooding is just going to get higher and higher and higher." Historic downtown Charleston, usually bustling with tourists, was eerily quiet, with many stores and shops boarded up with plywood and protected by stacks of sandbags. The city announced a midnight to 6 a.m. curfew Saturday, about the time the coast was expected to take the brunt of the storm. Airlines canceled at least 5,000 flights Wednesday through Saturday, including many in and out of Orlando, where all 3 of the resort city's world-famous theme parks, Walt Disney World, Universal Studios and SeaWorld, closed because of the storm. But things began getting back to normal, with flights resuming in Miami and other South Florida airports. And power companies in Florida promised that electricity would be almost fully restored by the end of the weekend. President Obama said that despite the fact Central and South Florida was not as seriously damaged as feared, Matthew remains a dangerous hurricane. The big concern is the effect it could have in areas like Jacksonville and on through Georgia, he said in the Oval Office on Friday. "Many of you will remember Hurricane Sandy, where initially people thought this doesn't look as bad as we thought, and then suddenly you get massive storm surge and a lot of people were severely affected. We're still on the front end of this hurricane, we're not on the back end. So we don't know how bad the damage could end up. We don't know how severe the storm surge could end up being. And we're not going to know for 3, 4, 5 days. What the ultimate effects of this are. Winds gusted as high as 91 miles per hour in Daytona Beach, with some damage already being reported. Pictures showed debris strewn across the Daytona Plaza Beach Resort. Residents south of the Pineda Causeway using City of Melbourne water were advised to boil water to be used for drinking, cooking or brushing teeth. St. Augustine experienced widespread flooding as the 451-year-old city was battered with waves and storm surge that could top 8 feet. Mayor Shaver said the flooding is just going to get higher and higher and higher. She added that roughly half of the city's 14,000 residents chose to stay in their homes despite the expected damage. There are houses that will probably not ever be the same again or not even be there, she said. Brevard County cities thus far, however, have reported no major